Today at sundown marks the beginning of Ramadan. For many Muslim Canadians, the coming month will be different than normal, with iftar online and virtual Friday prayers. But that won't change what this special time is all about: generosity, compassion, and service to others. Across the country, Muslim Canadians are on the front lines of the fight against COVID-19 as nurses, doctors, and essential workers. So thank you, and Ramadan Mubarak. Aujourd'hui, les musulmans canadiens vont souligner le début.
Today, Muslim Canadians will see the end of Ramadan, and it will not be as it usually is. Nonetheless, the values of compassion and generosity that are at the heart of the tradition are more important than ever. Across the country, Canadian Muslims are on the front line of the fight against COVID-19. Doctors, nurses, and essential workers, thank you. Ramadan Mubarak.
This will be another difficult day for many families and communities across the country. We're all thinking about those in Nova Scotia who are grieving the loss of loved ones, friends, and neighbours. Yesterday, I spoke with the families of some of the people we lost. They shared stories about their loved ones and their dreams and plans. In the face of such tragedy, their strength is remarkable. I spoke also with RCMP members from the area, and on behalf of all Canadians, I thank them for their service. And I spoke with some local mayors as well to express my condolences. For Torontonians, I know it'll be a hard day as well, as we remember the victims of the van attack on Yonge Street 2 years ago. Together we mourn, and together we heal. Because just as Canadians were there for each other 2 years ago, we're there for each other today. Across the country, people are hanging tartan, blue ribbons, and scarves from windows to honor those who died. With acts of kindness and donations, people are standing with families who are grieving. And tomorrow, with the virtual vigil, we will all have the chance to show the people of Nova Scotia that they are not alone. Pour les gens de la Nouvelle-Écosse, aujourd'hui sera une autre journée.
Today will be another difficult day for the people of Nova Scotia. Faced with this tremendous tragedy, they are showing incredible strength. The citizens of Toronto are also having a difficult day today, because today we remember the van attack on Yonge Street 2 years ago. Together we mourn, and together we will heal.
But there is reason to hope. When it comes to COVID-19, what we're doing is working. And to continue on the right track, we need to be thinking not just about the next weeks, but about the next months. We need medium-term and long-term solutions. On that front, I can announce today that we're taking another step forward. We're putting in place an additional $1.1 billion for a national medical and research strategy to address COVID-19. This plan has 3 pillars: research on vaccines and other treatments, supports for clinical trials, and expanding national testing and modelling. Let me start with the first pillar, on research. Under this plan, we're investing close to $115 million for research into vaccines and treatments being developed in hospitals and universities across the country. This is on top of the funding we've already provided to support vaccine development in Canada. The second pillar of the plan is to make sure that once we have potential vaccines and treatments, we can test a wide range of options. Under this plan, we will invest over $662 million for clinical trials led by Canada. A vaccine is the long-term solution to this virus, but these drugs will take months to develop, test, fabricate, and roll out. So until we have something ready, we need to control the spread of the virus. And that's where the third pillar of this plan comes in. We're investing $350 million to expand national testing and modelling of COVID-19. This includes creating the COVID-19 Immunity Task Force. The task force will operate under the direction of a leadership group which will include Dr. David Naylor, Dr. Catherine Hankins, Dr. Tim Evans, Dr. Teresa Tam, and Dr. Mona Niner. We are bringing together top health experts and scientists from leading institutions across the country. Canada's best and brightest will be working on serology testing, blood testing, to track and understand immunity to COVID-19. They'll be looking at key questions like how many people beyond those we've already tested have had COVID-19, whether you're immune once you've had it, and if so, how long that lasts. Over 2 years, we will be testing at least 1 million Canadians as a part of this study. The findings of the research will help with everything from rollouts of a potential vaccine to determining which public health measures are most effective going forward. We will get valuable data, including disaggregated data, to understand the impact on vulnerable populations. And we will also leverage new and existing lab capacity for research. The better we understand this virus, its spread, and its impact on different people, the better we can fight it and eventually defeat it. While this vital research is happening, we're also staying focused on what we can do right now to control COVID-19 and get back to normal as soon as possible. Testing is key. We've now reached 20,000 tests daily, almost double where we were earlier this month. But testing must increase even further before we can reopen and restart our normal activities as a country. You've been doing your part by staying home and practicing physical distancing. It's working, and we can't afford to waste this progress. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce qu'on met en place une
Today,
stratégie.
I'm announcing that we are setting up a medical and research strategy for $1 billion for the purpose of fighting COVID-19. The first pillar has to do with vaccines and treatment. We invested $115 million in research for vaccines in hospitals and universities, and this will be added to the fund which is already created for the purpose of developing vaccines in Canada. And the second pillar is, once we have vaccines and potential treatments, we can test several options for a cure, and we'll be investing $662 million in clinical tests, and we also want to invest in tests for modeling the disease, and we want to increase work regarding immunization and which will be led by Dr. Naylor, Hankins, Dr. Evans, and with the support of Dr. Tam and Dr. Niemer. They will be coordinating blood tests for the purpose of tracing the virus and also better understanding how to make ourselves immune. And we will be coordinating research for the purpose of making the vaccine available or determining which treatment is the most efficient and should be adopted. As we carry out this vital research, we will continue reflecting upon other measures to contain COVID-19 and come back to normalcy as quickly as possible. Testing is the most important pillar. We reached almost 20,000 tests a day throughout the country, but we must also increase our capability for testing to go back to normalcy.
We're seeing terrible tragedies in long-term care facilities across the country. This is unacceptable. If you're angry, frustrated, scared, you're right to feel this way. We can do better. We need to do better. Because we are failing our parents, our grandparents, our elders, the greatest generation who built this country. We need to care for them properly. Canadians need to pull together. There have been requests for military assistance by both Ontario and Quebec, which of course we will be answering. Our women and men in uniform will step up with the valor and courage they have always shown. In the short term, we will be there with support so that provinces can get control of this situation. But this is not a long-term solution. In Canada, We shouldn't have soldiers taking care of seniors. Going forward, in the weeks and months to come, we will all have to ask tough questions about how it came to this. We will all have to do more to get through this terrible situation. En ce moment,
these days, we are witnessing horrible tragedies taking place in the long-term care houses for our elders, and this is unacceptable. If you're frustrated, angry, or concerned, well, you're right to feel so. So we should do better, because we're failing our parents, our grandparents, our elders, the members of this great generation which contributed so much to building our country, so we should look after them as they deserve. Quebec and Ontario have requested the help of our armed forces, and we will answer yes to those requests, and our soldiers will be helping as they always do. But this is not a long-term solution, and no, in Canada it is not for our military to look after our elders. And we will have to look at the situation over the next weeks and months, and we will all have to do more for the purpose of going through this terrible situation. Everybody will have to do his or her part. We are all members of the same team, Team Canada, and as we do our share, I know that every one of us will do his or her share, and we will make it together, and together we will come back, win, and go back to normalcy. Thank you.
Go to the phone for questions. One question, one follow-up. Operator?
Thank you. Merci. First question, Althea Raj, Huffington Post. Line open.
Good morning. Yesterday you said you were going to continue working with the Finance Department and business associations to ensure that small businesses will get the support they need. Many self-employed individuals feel like they have been forgotten. They can't apply for interest-free loans because they have no payroll, and many have thousands of dollars in fixed costs every month, so the CRB changes really do nothing for them. They feel that your government has been more focused on employers and employees, and many face the real possibility of losing their businesses or going bankrupt. So could you tell us what changes you are envisioning for them?
As we said from the very beginning, we worked on measures to help as many people as possible. We brought in targeted measures to help people who'd lost a paycheck, including people who were self-employed. We've moved forward with a wage subsidy that ensures that people who can remain connected to their jobs while receiving 75% of their paycheck, up to $847 a week. We know that these are measures that got out quickly, are getting out quickly, and are broad and are helping millions of Canadians. But we also know that there are people who are falling through the cracks. That is why we continue to work with industry groups, with stakeholders, with MPs and community members across the country who are feeding us challenges and possible solutions. And of course, we are working with an extraordinary public service to deliver those solutions to Canadians.
Follow-up, Althea?
Okay, but that doesn't. Oh, well, that's your answer. Do you regret this patchwork approach regarding the CERB? It's clear that the need is a lot greater than the government anticipated when it drew up the program weeks ago, and I know that there are a number of people in your caucus who argued that it would have been far easier, and it would be far easier to give everyone who's lost income or lost the opportunity to earn income the ability to apply for help and just tax it back from those who perhaps didn't need it as much next year. I mean, did you make the right call, and are you so stuck on this current course of action that you will not deviate from it?
We knew from the very beginning that targeted support to the people who needed it was the best way to do it, and that's why we moved forward with the Canada Emergency Response Benefit that has delivered benefits to over 8 million Canadians. Why we moved forward with the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy that is ensuring that people can stay connected to their workplace even if they're not actually doing the work anymore, so that we can bounce back quickly. But every step of the way, we've said we will continue to expand. We will continue to fill gaps. We never expected that we'd get it perfect from day one. Indeed, we knew we wouldn't. But we couldn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We needed to get things out as best we could, as quickly as we could, to help as many people as possible. And then we continue every day to make further announcements that fill gaps, that explain how we're going to help those people who aren't hit by the broad measures there to help. We will continue to work on making sure that everyone who needs help gets it.
Thank you. Next question, operator.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Hélène Buzetti, Le Devoir. À vous.
Good morning, Mr. Trudeau. I'd like to go back to the announcements you made yesterday regarding students. There is a lack of staff and physical staff, and we will be lacking also workers in the fields this summer. So some people fear that the measures you have adopted might discourage young people to go work in the fields or take the necessary summer jobs. So do you think you have been too generous, and which might perhaps work contrary to the need we have of a more workforce in the summer? Everybody knows that the COVID-19 crisis is striking very violently and every generation in our country. So we also have a program for the purpose of job creation for young people, and that has and the result should be 76,000 newly created jobs. So I do know who the young people are in our country. They will want to contribute to the solution of the COVID-19 crisis, and so we want to make sure that they will have enough money for the purpose of paying their rent and go to do their grocery and go back to studies in the fall. So this is the right thing to do. And together, we'll make sure that we also manage to restart and reopening our economy. So I will not apologize for helping our students in the meantime. Mr. Prime Minister, today the Conservatives suggested that Ottawa create a program that would be similar to the summer job, that would also encourage young people to go work in the agricultural or agri-food area, which is poorly remunerated. So what do you think about the possible solutions? Year after year, we have young people who are interested by possible work in the agricultural sector. This is a very green, this is a generation which has a strong awareness of the green economy. So they will be contributing, and we will do all, provide them with all the encouragements we can provide them for the purpose of having them go and work in the agri-food industry. And I'm confident that they will be helping us coming out of the crisis.
Merci. Next question, Ryan Tunnelty, National Post. Line open.
Yeah, morning, Prime Minister. I'm wondering, there are a number of U.S. states that are starting to ease restrictions, opening up businesses again, starting as early as tomorrow. I'm wondering if you're concerned about jurisdictions that are so close to Canada easing their restrictions so much, even while in some cases their virus numbers are still going up.
We have strong border measures in place to ensure that we're doing what we need to do to protect Canada. As provinces look at their own situation and how we can move forward on beginning to reopen our economy, I know that their decisions and our decisions will be informed by what is working and what is perhaps not working as well elsewhere in the world. Je sais que nous allons continuer d'avoir des mesures.
I know that we will be continuing to protect our borders because we want to protect the security, the safety, and the health of Canadians. And as the federal government is developing plans for the purpose of reopening our economy together with the provinces, we will look at the good results for the purpose of inspiring our own decisions.
Yeah, I'm also wondering about the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is out today with a request for $10 billion in emergency funding because their revenues have fallen so steeply during this crisis. Are you starting to work with municipalities on a package for something like that?
We recognize that levels of government across the country, orders of government across the country are facing distinct challenges. We've had a number of conversations with the provinces on their financial challenges. And as we know, municipalities are governed by the provinces. We will continue to work with the provinces, but we'll also continue to work directly with municipalities to make sure that Canadians get the services they need, get the support they need. Regardless of the orders of government, we all serve the same people, Canadians, and we need to work together to be there for them. Okay. Nous allons toujours travailler.
We will always do our best for the purpose of helping Canadians who need our services and our support during this difficult crisis. And we do respect the jurisdiction of provinces in relation with the municipalities. So we will be continuing working with the provinces, but in several cases directly with municipalities when appropriate.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Émilie Bergeron, Agence QMI.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. I'd like to go back to the assistance given to Quebec in the long-term care houses and regarding sending 1,000 military as requested. And what would be the lessons learned of such an initiative and such a situation? Something was poorly managed in Quebec because for years we know that there are budding problems in Quebec and the long-term care homes. Yes, let me say that we have answered yes positively to the first three requests from the province of Quebec, and we will be also answering positively this fourth request. And so we'll be discussing with the province of Quebec about the best manner in which we could coordinate the best possible response in the places where that assistance is necessary. And regarding the lessons learned, well, there will be a number of important questions to be answered over the next weeks and months and years to come as to how do we support our seniors in our country. And there is quite a number of challenges and that will have to be met. So if I understand your answer, we do not know how many military will be sent to Quebec. We don't know whether it's going to be 1,000 of them. And for several days you've been talking about volunteers and Red Cross contribution. How many volunteers do you expect to come and help in this respect? Well, people are confronted in Quebec with a horrible situation, and we will do all we can to help them overcome this terrible situation. We have already 350 military in the field in the long-term care houses, and we will be sending more. And we will be cooperating with Quebec, and we will be asking our volunteers and the Red Cross to also do their part as they can. And this is we do in Canada. We have each other's backs in a time of crisis, and we will do so during this difficult situation.
The race for personal protective supplies allows for a way out of China. It's been 500 days since Canadians Michael Kovrig and Spavor were arbitrarily detained. Are you any closer to getting them released? And when was the last time they had a chance to meet with consular officials?
We have been working extremely diligently on the issue of Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig, who have been detained for 500 days in China. This is something that we have taken seriously from the very beginning. I can highlight that the Minister of Foreign Affairs spoke to his counterpart, very recently to express our continued concerns and desire to see them released soon. The COVID-19 crisis has the Chinese system in a position of not allowing consular visits, but we have been assured that they are in a facility in a region that is not particularly affected by COVID-19, although we are continuing to press both for more details and for better access.
Also, Prime Minister, we've seen a spike in anti-Asian violence in different parts of our country. In BC, an elderly man with dementia was shoved out of a store by an assailant that brought up remarks about COVID-19. We now have a Conservative leadership candidate that is asking for Dr. Tam to be fired and is accusing her, the WHO and China, of being in cahoots. What is your message to Canadians as they see this?
Intolerance and racism have no place in our country. Canada has succeeded because of our diversity. It is one of our greatest strengths. And the millions of Canadians of all different backgrounds who are working together, many of them on the front lines to help their fellow Canadians, deserve better than this from all of us. We need to continue in our resolve to be an open, welcoming, respectful country. And I think all Canadians expect that of every politician.
Intolerance and racism have no reason to exist in Canada, and certainly not in our public discourse. Our country is a strong country, not in spite of its differences, but thanks to its differences. And ethnocentrism has no place in our country. Well, people come all races, ethnicity, and origins work together during this crisis, especially in the front line. So we should not accept such intolerant discourse.
Closed in Alberta, and the NDP in that province calling on 2 more to be shut down. I'm just wondering, what is the federal government doing to protect Canada's food supply from the effects of COVID-19? And are you worried about federal inspectors going into these plants?
We are, of course, very alert to the issue of food supply in Canada. Food security for Canadians is a continued essential priority. We will work with the agricultural industry. We are strengthening processes around the CFIB to ensure both protection for our inspectors and effectiveness in assuring the safety of our food supply and of the conditions in which workers find themselves. We will continue to work with provinces and various jurisdictions to ensure that we are making sure that Canadians get the food that they need.
And in terms of vaccines, you announced earlier funds for vaccine development. I'm wondering if your plan is to have vaccines manufactured here in Canada for Canadians.
We know that developing vaccines is a really important step, and that's why there are brilliant researchers working across the country in coordination and in collaboration with the international community as we all make efforts to develop a vaccine. But once we've developed a vaccine, whether it be in Canada or elsewhere around the world, we're going to need to produce it, and we will see the same kinds of pressures that we're seeing around obtaining PPE around the world to obtain vaccines, which is why part of the investments we're making today is to establish the capacity of developing vaccines and producing vaccines, mass producing vaccines here in Canada. Okay. Oui, la vaccination va être un élément essentiel.
Yes, vaccines will be a strong pillar of our exit strategy for COVID-19, and this is why we are emphasizing research on vaccines and have Canadians contributing brilliantly to this research. At the same time, we must make sure that we're able to manufacture them here in Canada, and this is what we'll be doing. In Quebec, people are talking about the possible reopening of some regions, and Saskatchewan will be unveiling its plan for the reopening of the economy. So there's Prince Edward Island. Do you think it's too soon, and do you think that the provinces are taking these measures prematurely? Well, we have to look at the situation. Until we have a vaccine, we will not be able to say that we have come back to normalcy. However, we'll be able to soften some of the measures and lift some of them while keeping our screening strategies. And some provinces will be making the appropriate measures in this respect regarding the lifting of some measures. And we, as the federal government, we will be working at having a consistent and common approach to the relaxation of such measures. And of course, this may take place at different times from one province to another.
We know that everyone wants to know when this is going to be over, when we're going to be able to get back to normal life. Well, until we have either a vaccine or significant treatments for COVID-19, we're not going to be able to talk about getting back to normal. But in the coming months, we will be able to loosen a number of the restrictions and rules that we have right now on personal mobility in certain sectors, on the economy. Different provinces are in very different postures related to COVID-19 and will be taking decisions that are appropriate for them. What we're doing at the federal level is attempting to pull together and coordinate all different provinces so that we are working from a similar set of guidelines and principles to ensure that Canadians right across the country are being kept safe as we look to those next steps.
Tantôt, vous avez dit qu'on fait à peu près 20 000 tests par jour actuellement et que ce n'est pas suffisant. Ce serait quoi votre cible pour qu'on puisse commencer à parler justement de réouverture en termes de tests de dépistage par jour?
Dr Tam a parlé de 50 ou 60 000 tests par jour comme étant une cible importante. Il y en a d'autres qui disent que ça pourrait aller jusqu'au besoin du double de ça. On sait qu'on doit en faire beaucoup plus et c'est pour ça qu'on est en train d'augmenter le débit de dépistage et nos capacités de dépistage.
Prime Minister Julie Van Dusen, CBC. You've talked about the fact that it's unacceptable what's going on in Canada's seniors' homes. You've also discussed the idea of making sure people make more money in those homes, but that, of course, would be a short-term solution. In terms of a long-term solution, will you be talking to the premiers about putting seniors' homes under the Canada Health Act, which would set national standards and hopefully make sure that seniors don't go through such a terrible ordeal again?
I think there are going to be an awful lot of Canadians asking questions of all their province, all their politicians about what we're going to do to make sure a situation like this could never happen again. What COVID-19 has done has highlighted and brought forward failings in our system, in our country, where the people who take care of our most vulnerable are themselves extremely vulnerable economically. We need to do better. And there will be a lot of conversations that Canadians are going to demand and that politicians will have about what is the best way to ensure that we are properly protecting our elders.
On the issue of the vaccine, which you've said in the past could take a year to 18 months, will we have to wait for a vaccine to hug our family and friends who are outside of our bubble?
The process around reopening, the level of freedom we'll have to visit friends and to work and to go outside will depend on the decisions and the advice that scientists give us around how to keep ourselves safe. We know it may be a long while before a vaccine. There are discussions around treatments for COVID-19 that might work as well as a vaccine. I mean, we've been waiting for and looking for and searching for a vaccine for AIDS for decades now, and it still hasn't come. But there are treatments that mean quality of life for people with HIV have been massively improved. There are different ways of moving through. We will take the best ways we possibly can as we move forward. A vaccine, obviously, arriving soon would be the best solution. But we need to make sure we are exploring all different ways of ensuring that Canadians' quality of life and safety and protection is upheld in the best way we possibly can going forward. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Thank you, everybody.